Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Do you remember Portugal before we were dating? When we ended up on the beach.
You're pulling out all the stories.
Having a debate. Well, you were talking about this. Having a debate about what should come first, soccer or love.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Let me tell it. Don't interrupt. Welcome back to the recap show. We are so excited to be back. We missed you. And as you can see, we have rebooted TRS. New set, new home. Welcome to TRS 2.0.
You were so excited that Luis literally had to move his headphone a little bit with the audio.
They told me to sit back from the mic because I was screaming with joy.
Yeah, but it was authentic, and I really appreciated it because it was a lot of work to get here, and we're so excited. We've never really had a place to call home. We talk a lot on TRS about creating spaces that look and feel like us. And for the first time ever, we've gotten the opportunity to create a space that looks and feels like us. And you'll be seeing a lot of changes around here. Obviously, we're in June. It's Pride Month. We want to make sure the space feels fun for both ourselves and our amazing guests. But yeah, it's the start of a new chapter, and I'm super proud.
And as you all know, I'm a big energy person. And so all of this is in hopes of creating a space where we can have conversations that are warm, that are honest, that are impactful. And we are bringing that prayer into this space, that hope into TRS 2.0, that we can tell stories that need to be told and we can change lives. And that's what we're going to try to do. And it's a big ambition, but there's nobody else I would take that on with other than you.
Amazing. Should we get into it?
Yeah. All right, Tobin, why don't you tell everyone what you've been up to?
It's summer season, which means a lot of sports. And I just got back from an epic trip to Portugal where we launched the Sevens.
Not this again.
Oh, you want me to keep talking about it? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I want.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because at the Angel City game, I was seeing all these players going down cramping because, the field is gigantic and it's a lot of hard work out there. And all I could think was, I never saw that at a Sevens. And it just looked like so many people were suffering instead of having more joy. So I'm like into this more joy in football. Which,
I'm not on my bandwagon.
I'm not saying, yeah, always. I'm not saying there's like an either or here, but it was really cool to launch this new format and to see the joy of these teams, of these players, and to just really experience the format being all that we intended it to be. And we're all just chomping at the bits to do it again very soon.
I will say that I tease because Tobin has talked about the Sevens nonstop since she's been back because she's really proud and she worked really hard on it. And she also was just telling me about how she saw reimaginers everywhere. And for us, it's really special to see people that are our community out, especially with the further we are from home. So it was really cool that for those of you who got to be there and those that supported from afar.
Yeah,
we're grateful.
I would say Reimagined United for sure. It was so cool to see our community there. They're everywhere. They're global. And they're showing up at the things that are innovating, like where the innovation is, where the excitement is. And it was really special. And I know it was special for them because they got to see each other. They had a moment. And that's all about creating the spaces again that folks from all over the world can come together around the things that they care about and cheer for them. And I will say Angel City was represented too. Like of all the teams, we had all these European clubs and then there was like the supporters group of Angel City. So Angel City was also there in spirit, which was pretty cool because it shows that fandom as well and what it means to the global community of soccer.
Well, since you basically started this, obviously you had a few friends, we will fully expect you to leak all the details of what's coming next on a later episode. And as for me, I got a new coach.
You did.
At Angel City. So that was exciting. I showed up with my backpack on, first day of school vibes. Everyone gave their absolute best attitude and performance for about 3 days. So that was fun.
Wait, can we talk about how your coach just literally got like NWSL'd for his first game?
Yeah.
Like
NWSL'd after dark.
Yeah. I mean, it's summertime, so it wasn't that dark, but
But the game was.
The game got dark. And basically, I couldn't have written a script of like here's your pamphlet, sir, to the introduction of the NWSL. Fluke goal. Like, if you tried to recreate that, like the probability of that happening again are like 1 in trillions. And yet 2 goals have been scored on Angel City like that, which is just like an absurd deflection that like spends 10 minutes in the air and then somehow ends up in the Angel City goal. And then a worldie. It's like, you're playing the worst team at home and all of a sudden the NWSL starts scripting in a way that you're just like, stop, it's uncontrolled, it doesn't make sense. And yet this is the football that happens. And then on a beautiful Pride night, to see Angel City come back from being down and give the stadium the rainbow smoke and something to cheer about was really fun to get the community together. But I feel like that was a pamphlet of like, welcome to the NWSL and good luck.
Yeah, and I think it's honestly a good thing because it's a fast lesson. We don't have a lot of time. You get a coach mid-season and 5 days in, it's like, here's your pamphlet. So now we've got it. Now we know what it is, and now we go from here. So during the international break, I got an injection in my knee, which I was very excited about. I'm trying to stay on the cutting edge of sports science, trying to stay young forever, folks. And I'm working my way back to full capacity, and I'm excited. I'm excited for also Angel City 2.0. All right, now it's time for red card, yellow card, goal. Please remind me what that is.
Well, this is something that we do here on the recap show. And I will say, every time we have done this, it has been a goal every time.
Well, I hope you're not jinxing us.
No, but this topic in it, let's do it. Come on.
Oh my gosh, you're right. There's no jinx of this topic.
You're right.
This is going to be the best topic of red card, yellow card.
All right.
Goal.
Introduce the topic.
For Pride, in honor of Pride, the topic is dating your teammate.
This is going to be fun. Okay. Kristen and Marie, no space press. And Kristen and no space Marie press. Gosh, you would think I didn't even know her. Should we start with the red card?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Lead the way.
So we're having this conversation because in women's sports, we tend to have a lot of teammate love stories. And we know how much you love it. And we also love it, those of us that have survived it. But it does come with its fair share of oopsies.
Of red cards?
Of red cards. So the first red card is going to be messy breakups.
Oof, yes, yes.
If you were coaching a team,
yes,
how would you feel about having 2 teammates date?
I love it.
And how would you feel when those 2 teammates break up?
I would want to make sure they were both okay.
And what if they refuse to play together?
I would keep the best one and trade the other one to a place they don't want to go.
Isn't that how it always happens? That's how it works. Perfect. So you're just following what we know.
Yeah.
Any other red cards?
Yes, red cards. Coaches bringing you in for a meeting and having the talk.
The talk. Okay. Have you ever been given the talk?
No.
So
I just think it like exists, right? It might not even be the talk. It might just be like the talk around the talk. Like we're just going to talk around it.
How do you think it would go? Now, girls.
All right. So those are some pretty good red cards. Let's get to the yellow cards.
Those are some pretty bad red cards.
Oh, yes, bad. Not like really straight reds, though.
No, honestly, inevitabilities.
Yeah, I feel like the breakups, like they can go many ways. And yeah. Let's get into the yellow cards.
Okay, yellow card okay, so red card was messy breakups. Yellow card is secret relationships,
Yes.
2 teammates dating, and nobody knows, or some people know and some people don't know, or when you start as friends and there's usually a third, and then 2 people fall in love and the third one doesn't know. Oh, that hurts.
Have you ever been involved in one of those?
I've seen it unfold.
Oh,
I was a
okay.
lucky bystander.
Okay. So you just spoke about a lot of different. This is the secret dating. Yeah.
Comes in many forms.
Yeah.
But there's the reason it's yellow is because people do deserve their privacy.
Yeah, and they deserve the space to like kind of figure it out. It's not like you just like start dating someone and like that's it. There's like dating where you kind of like go on dates and you're kind of sussing out this like awkward,
Yeah, and you want to avoid the drama, but
Yeah.
you still want to give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
So you lie and sneak to all the people that you love. Obviously.
Total yellow card. All right, let's get into the goals.
Goals.
For love. Actually, for everlasting love.
For lesbians.
Not the lesbians again.
To the lesbians. Okay, real talk. I have an unexpected goal. I do have a little bit of personal experience.
Did you just wink?
Okay. I have a little bit of experience. So here is my attempt to explain this goal.
Gosh.
There is a lot of competition in a team. And there is this opportunity that you have to have like an abundant mindset where you can share with each other, learn with each other, grow with each other. But I think that there can be hesitation because of the competition. Like sometimes you don't want to learn from your greatest competition because you're like fighting them for a spot. So you're like blind to their strengths. And I will say that when you date your teammate, there's this sharing of soccer and knowledge and building a relationship that's truly, truly abundant where you want someone else to succeed almost as much as you want yourself to succeed. And I think there's a huge power to having that on a team.
Oh my gosh. I'm really nodding my head for people that are just listening. I'm so with you on this. Goal for chemistry.
Oh my gosh, chemistry.
Chemistry. That's like the thing in sports, Like, no, it doesn't have to be on a romantic level, but it's like when 2 teammates really get it, it's like that is sports. Those are the duos that are like the most iconic sports duos.
Yeah, and it's better if it's
goal
for romantic.
Chemistry.
Isn't that just more fun?
Definitely.
Fuels the fan fictions.
And goals for that.
Oh my gosh, I forgot the beginning of this.
What?
Wasn't it supposed to be about Preath?
That was the beginning of our actual next conversation.
Oh, perfect.
We'll get into that later.
Okay, well, since this is our Pride episode, we knew we had to give everybody a little extra treat. So we are going to do a thing that we normally don't do, a hard thing, some may say. But the topic of today's discussion, no one is going to guess, but it is Preath. And we are starting here because Preath is a living thing that lives very separate from Tobin and I. There is a Christen and a Tobin, and we love our Christen and Tobin. And then there's a Preath. And that is maybe I would call it the fantasy that the fans have for what we represent. Maybe it's just the ship of the new age, what the kids do. I don't know. But it actually is a real thing. Well, how would you describe Preath if she was over here?
I would say like a little bit of truth, a little bit of a lot of bit of love, a lot of bit of assumptions, and a little bit of lies.
Ooh. I was thinking more of her as a person, so I thought you were going to give more like human adjectives.
Oh, yeah. You know how I feel about our relationship. It's the greatest thing in the whole entire world. But when it came to playing soccer, I found it to start to get very messy between like Tobin and this Tobin and Christen thing that started to evolve during the playing. And I love celebrating my individuality in myself as a person, in playing, and and in no way, shape, or form did I ever not want it to, like, we shared everything together, but I felt like our coming together of our two, I guess, like, quote unquote, like, brands or fandoms or whatever it meant, really kind of like lost that. I lost this just like kind of idea of Tobin.
Yeah, you got to make room for me.
You make a lot of room. No, and I think that honestly, it was a really strange time when all of this started happening. Was at this like really big boom of social media and the whole fandom of the U.S. Women's National Team, which kind of came off of the 2015 World Cup. And people were just figuring out like social media and having this like new exposure and accessibility to athletes and what that meant, what it looked like. And there were actually a lot of like really big pain points and growings in social media and what that meant to athletes and what you share and what you don't share, and what you're expected to share. And I think there was a lot of expectations to be a certain way. And it's really confusing when you yourself don't know yet what exactly is happening, to have all of these narratives and opinions. And I think it's really toxic. And I think for us, we always had to really step away from it, not because we don't love our fans and stuff like that, but the whole idea of it, I think we really had to step away from, because you can get really psychologically messed up when you start listening to other people's opinions about the thing that you're doing, as opposed to like sitting here and being with you. It's really complicated, and I could see how, I mean, I did see how it changed a lot of people and the way they even perceive themselves or their own relationship. And I think I always tried to pull us out of that vortex of what other people wanted or assumed or whatever, the narratives that people created, to just be like, what's our narrative? Like, what is the truth for us? How do we want to be? And you've always taught me and to be intentional about everything we do. And that was really important, I think, to the process, but really complicated.
There are so many good things that you said. I don't even know where to respond first, but let's start from the beginning. So the interesting thing was the idea of us, which is what I think about it for Preath. Like the idea of us happened before we happened.
Yeah.
So think about that. Like there was already this like fantasy of it before it was real. And I remember in the beginning, I posted a photo and you were like on the beach with seagulls and you were like tiny, tiny, tiny in the back. And the comments started, they're dating, they're dating, they're dating, they're dating. And it was like, whoa, right?
Yeah.
And it was something that like a switch flipped, and then we like couldn't take it back. And the reason that I think it's interesting is like there's two sides that were happening at the same time. One, it was like you and I wanting to protect like a sacred space, which we still do. We still have to sit here and talk about like what we want to share. What you're talking about with social media, it's like as individual people, we share ourselves with the world, which is like exposing. It's like vulnerable. And then it pulls you out of yourself and you get disembodied and you look back at yourself and you say like, what do they think of me, right? And then we were offering that up or not with a relationship, which is, you know, I spent my whole life in this body and it's hard enough to stay in it. Now I'm in a new relationship and I'm already like putting that type of vulnerability. And then the other side of us in the beginning was like, we didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't know if it was going to work out. We didn't know if, we were going to be together. We didn't know how we felt. None of it. And it was almost something that we had to overcome.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably true of all relationships that happen in the public eye. But it's a weird thing to have happen.
Yeah, it is a weird thing. And I also think I have a lot of empathy for, I think, folks in this current generation too, that, everybody's living their lives, very publicly, social media. And I just think people like want answers and they want labels. And I think it's really confusing too when you don't even have those answers for yourself. Like you said, we didn't even know what we were going to be. And yet everything was being labeled as something, or even you were being labeled as something. It's like our identities, our sexuality, who we were attracted to was all being scrutinized and like almost celebrated before we had even a chance to understand. And yeah, I just think it's like kind of like was a gross feeling and I hated it. But at the same time, it's like if I take a step back from like everything that, everywhere we went, like it was just like another narrative of something, and it did feel very much like everyone was fast forwarding something and we were trying to remain in the present moment.
But it was really actually one of the things that united us was that we were kind of on the same page about it, which I will say is like lucky, because there's also this like massive fandom of people, humans that are looking for representation.
Yeah.
And they're looking for gay couples to celebrate. And they wanted that for us. And we represent that for them. And it's meaningful and it's impactful. And it's the way that we get to live and uplift.
But that's not fair. That's not fair to like force somebody to be like a version of something that you want them to be.
No,
and that's actually the contrary of everything I think we try to do here and what we're trying to create, which is a space to actually be whatever you want to be, actually at whatever time you want to be it, and I think that we're still working and operating in such limited structures and understanding. And sometimes I just think that people, the internet does this in general, is like you dehumanize what people are actually going through,
Yeah. And in this case, it was less dehumanizing and it was more like glorifying.
Oh, yeah, or glorifying. Yeah. It's like, you're right. That wasn't the right word. I think it was like creating false realities or false, or like your own expectations on something, as opposed to realizing that there's like real people. And it's not just you and I in a relationship, right? Like we have real families, we have real stories, we have real trauma, we have, we're real. Like, and yeah, it's confusing because part of it's like LOL, like let's laugh about it, but it's also, there are some seriousness and some consequences that have happened to it or happened because of it. And I guess I'm like a little dark in this moment about
no, it's
what it's been,
it's
but
honest.
That's I guess the honesty to it. And
okay, so I'm trying to pace us.
Yeah, I think pacing wise too, it wasn't just external, right? There were like real internal things.
That's exactly where I was going.
Yeah, I know. I had a feeling you're going there because, there was the external, what everybody kind of was like assuming was happening. And then there was like real internal stuff. And they definitely overlapped in a lot of ways. But there were also some like very different situations going on.
So what happened was Tobin and I
get into the specifics.
Got caught kissing under a tree at national team camp.
We didn't. Yeah, we did. Yeah, but the interesting thing is we actually didn't know at the time of the kissing that we had gotten caught. Which is
we got secretly
almost
caught.
Worse because you were definitely still kissing. It's like I feel like if somebody caught you kissing, you'd be like, "Oh, we just bumped heads or something." You know what I mean? But I feel like in this situation, it's like who knows how long we were
being caught.
I do think it was a very romantic moment, though.
It was a very sweet moment.
And to set the stage, in this situation where you're starting to have feelings or like go on more like one-on-one things to see if this is something. Obviously, we were in with the national team 300 out of 365 days. I know that like is weird to think about now, but it was a different time with the national team where it was your whole entire life. And this was a trip where we purposely went far off the grid on a tree out in the middle of the ocean to like basically just have some peace and quiet and to figure out some things. Figure out how some things are going to be. And yeah, it just so happened that, yeah, we were
caught. And it was messy. And it's, 10 years later. Oh my God, you're so embarrassed. It's so cute. Okay. It's 10 years later, so we can look back. And it was messy because there were team dynamics, there were friendships, there were long-standing relationships that got shaken because I don't think anyone was expecting us to fall in love, including us.
Us, yeah.
And in a team environment, like we joke, we do red cards and we give red cards and yellow cards, but it's actually really hard. And I think at some points in our relationship, we didn't feel supported, and friendships changed and relationships changed, and everything inside the team, we're talking about the national team, like people come in and out and everything's shifting, but it was like a huge shift. I remember at one point, you were talking to a teammate and you said something like, well, it's none of their business about another player or coach. And it was Megan Rapinoe, and she said, well, it is our business because we're all on this team. Mm-hmm. And it was like rubbing up against particularly like your need for like privacy and peace and like separation of like work and life. But we were working and living in the same place, right? And there were also times during our journey where we felt extremely supported. Mm-hmm. And the time that comes to mind is when my mom got sick, and she needed to get brain surgery. And at that point, I don't think we had ever talked to Jill about being in a relationship. We had never acknowledged it, and it was just known and not spoken about. And I had to miss an important camp before the 2019 World Cup to be with my family. And I called her and she said, of course, go. And we did not even ask about you. We didn't even have the gall to ask because like when you look back, it seems so crazy. But at the time it was like soccer over everything. So of course you were going to go prepare. And she called you and she said, stay with Christen. And you missed that camp. It was like 6-7 months before the World Cup, and it put like in our minds, it could have put your chances in jeopardy. And it was an acknowledgement of our relationship and the seriousness of our relationship at the time that I don't think either of us ever expected in the national team environment.
Yeah. It's pretty emotional, like thinking about that moment, because that was something special. But I also think that it just showed how much like honor and like how much of a dream it is to play for the national team. Like you don't want to do anything to jeopardize being able to represent your country. And we had never really seen it, like relationships in the kind of way that I think we were on the national team. And there wasn't really like a right way to do it. So we probably made a lot of mistakes.
Definitely.
But we never sacrificed the dream, and we never sacrificed. I think one of the most beautiful things about like our time together in the national team was like the national team came above everything. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't Tobin and Christen and the national team, like it was the team. And I think there was obviously a lot of fear that came with that, right? It was like, we can't do this, or so we're really going to have to make sure that our priorities are very, very clear. And I think also it was like we were navigating just being like insanely in love at the same time and having to be hyper professional and hyper like competitive and supportive and like amazing teammates. And then at the same time, like experiencing this just like deep love for one another and like growing up in that as well. It was a ride. It was a time. And I think I'm really proud about how we represented that team while we were on it. Like it was in no ways perfect, but I hope that we kind of laid a foundation for maybe other couples that will come. And, it will be a different situation, obviously, because it's not the same kind of dynamic that existed back then, where the national team was so core to what you did. Now obviously it's, club and national team has kind of a different balance, but I'm really proud of us. And at the same time, it was weird.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Do you remember Portugal before we were dating? When we ended up on the beach.
You're pulling out all the stories.
Having a debate. Well, you were talking about this. Having a debate about what should come first, soccer or love.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Let me tell it. Don't interrupt. So we had a debate. And one of us thought soccer should come first. And one of us thought love should come first. And I think I'm going to have to start this again. But I find it unfathomable that it was me that thought soccer should come first, and Tobin, soccer junkie, that thought love should come first. And we had this debate. I think we were both in other relationships. And I just remember being so ingrained by my parents when I was growing up and like dating boys. It was like, boys do not come over this. Like, you have talent, you have ambition, like you're going for this. And it like stayed with me. And we were on the beach and you were like the person that I knew that loved soccer more than anything. And you were such a romantic. And you were just like, no, like soccer will come and go. Like love's forever.
This was honestly our first like conversation that we really ever had, the two of us. Thank you, Megan Klingenberg, for excusing yourself. We love you. And typical Christen fashion, you were ready to debate it.
Sure was.
You were ready. And it was a really funny conversation looking back on it, because then now we're,
Well, it turns out you were right.
I was right.
You were right.
Yeah. Any other stories you'd like to give?
I had another one.
Really?
What was it? Oh, the other thing that I was thinking about when you were talking was when we stopped playing for the national team and we stopped being teammates, how it made more space for us as a relationship. And I remember we were with some of our national team friends, like post U.S. Women's National Team, like every call up. And we were like, maybe like holding hands or like, and they were like, oh my gosh, we've never seen you show affection.
Yeah.
And I feel like that just like shows the strain that was on our relationship, that we had to like flip switch, and we were like professional. And then it was like, oh, here's the space for us, and like going back and forth.
Yeah.
That some of our best friends at the time didn't even know us like truly as a couple. They just knew us as like Dumb and Dumber that went everywhere together but never kissed and never held hands, and was just like two pals palling around.
Gal pals.
Yeah, and then like I don't know, then like the us that our friends from home get to see.
Yeah.
It being totally different.
Yeah, like thinking back on it, like do I wish that there was a space for us to have been like our true authentic selves in our relationship on that team or like in the sport? I would think I would have wanted maybe a different way to be able to celebrate our relationship, and for it to have not felt like such a like kind of like an either or flipping of the switch, because it was like constantly like on off, on off, on off, on off. Like it's kind of exhausting, and also I will very performative.
Yeah, I will try not to like sugarcoat it, because your experience is real and important. I think I loved how hard it was, because we had to fight for it and we had to work for it. And we got to blossom at our own pace. And a lot of times when you fall in love and you get into a relationship, you look up and you're like, oh my God, here we are. But like we didn't have that luxury. We held pinkies at the SBs, and the world decided that was our coming out moment. And I remember after that, I like got asked a bunch of interviews like, oh, are you out? And I just looked at my publicist and I said, not doing this. And I walked away. And it was like, that was my way of like giving a little and taking a little back.
Yeah.
And I would say that of the parts that we give of us, the most interesting part is when we show our willingness to keep things for ourselves. And I think that is important. I think it is important for other people to see a relationship being held sacred. And it is something that I very much, you can tell from this conversation, I followed Tobin's lead, and maybe I would have been more loud and proud and out and about, but this was the perfect way for us to be together. And like, it's still evolving. Like, here we are sitting here on TRS chatting about our love. I mean, none of you thought we'd be here.
Yeah, I definitely didn't think I'd be here in so many different ways. But I think also, you're right. I do think hopefully we've also given another option, because I did feel like, being queer, or kind of figuring out your sexuality on the Nash team, like growing up on the Nash team, like in this weird social media era. I think that we saw this version of like these big coming outs, these big queer icons on the team. And it almost felt like that was like what you had to do.
There was an expectation to come out,
there was a huge expectation. And it's like, I've never done that in any form of my life, let alone that. And I hope I've shown a different way. I hope we've shown a different way that is, maybe just.
I will say that you've only ever been loud on the field. And that's just what's true to you. And I think the last thing that I would like to say is we have shown a different way. I really believe it. And I think that I feel in my life right now so supported in my relationship. And I always ask you, like, why do you think that I feel so connected to the fans? And like, part of it's like, I'm old. I've been doing this a long time. People saw me when I had a pie face. Like, they've grown up with me. But part of that was growing up with us. And part of that was that such an important part of this community is queer. And they do need to see stories. And though it's not fair, and though we were reluctant representation for a long time, like, we also have gotten so much from the community that supports us that we never expected. Like growing up, we both thought that there would only be consequences of being gay, but actually in our job and in our company and in our brand, there's a huge reward of love and celebration and joy that we get to receive as a couple. And I'm really grateful for that. And
yeah, I'm really grateful too. And I feel like staying present and patient in your own timing and in what feels right has led to creating the spaces that I think we would have felt more comfortable in. And now, instead of, going on some stage somewhere that is representing some other ideas other than our own, to do something performative that doesn't really feel like ourselves, we were able to create our own community and our own space and our own place for our voice where we are able to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of maybe the most beautiful part. And
so thanks to all of you all for letting us tell our story.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've given enough of ourselves to you today. Tobin is crying. She's exhausted. And when I get home, she's going to say, shh, enough. But for now, we thought it would be great to hear from all of you. We are in the process of building all of your brilliant ideas into our show, and we have some questions.
How awesome is this joust? Is that a question?
It is now. We would actually like to know, what are you loving about the show? What can we do more of? What guests would you like to see?
Album art.
What records would you like to see?
Yep. So good.
We have relaunched our newsletter, The Reset, which is a weekly newsletter that also features little personal blogs from Tobin and I, which is my favorite part, but also what games to watch, player spotlights. So please subscribe. I think you're going to love it. That's all I have to say.